Anti-ICE riot in Los Angeles quickly spread to over 30 cities across the United States. The operations sparked widespread panic and fear in many communities. Looting and property damage broke out in several working-class neighborhoods. Cars were set on fire, stores were ransacked, and public and private properties were vandalized. What stands out is how opposing political narratives have shaped the public's understanding of the events. Each side offers a very different, yet equally compelling interpretation of what's happening on the ground. Recent hearings involving governors of sanctuary states highlight the admission of their guilt. Critics accuse them of enabling undocumented immigrants with criminal records to remain free. Understanding the rationale is crucial if there's any hope of ending the unrest and finding a path toward meaningful, unified solutions. NBC News headline on June 13 reads, House Republicans spar with Democratic governors. Intense immigration hearing. They allege that sanctuary policies are reckless and dangerous, jeopardizing public safety. Governors Tim Walz of Minnesota, J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, and Kathy Hochul of New York all strongly pushed back against the committee's accusations, clearly stating that immigration enforcement, including tragic cases involving crimes by undocumented immigrants, is a federal responsibility, not a state one. They further accused the Republican panel of staging a political spectacle to impress Donald Trump, questioning the sincerity of their concerns and suggesting that their actions were driven more by political agendas than genuine concern for public safety. Why admit your own fault when it threatens not just your reputation, but your self-admiration? Notable victims of murder by undocumented immigrants include Laken Riley, a nursing student of Augusta University who was killed while jogging in Athens, Georgia. The suspect is a Venezuelan national that had entered the U.S. illegally in 2022. He had prior arrests in both New York and Georgia. Although ICE issued a detainer, local authorities released him before federal custody could be assumed. Jocelyn Nungary, a 12-year-old girl from Texas who was sexually assaulted and murdered in Houston on June 16, 2024. Two Venezuelan nationals were charged with capital murder. Both men had entered the U.S. illegally and were allegedly affiliated with the trendy Aragua gang. Debrina Kawam, a 61-year-old homeless woman who was set on fire and killed on a Brooklyn subway train in December 2024. The suspect? A Guatemalan national deported in 2018. He had re-entered the U.S. illegally and was residing in a shelter at the time of the incident. When one's life is taken unjustly, they leave a silence no words can fill. Yet, in that void, their love and laughter echo forever. While it's true that immigration enforcement is primarily a federal responsibility, that argument has often been used as a convenient not my fault excuse by local leaders. The fact remains, sanctuary city policies show leniency toward undocumented immigrants, including those who have committed serious crimes. Democrats didn't hold back. Some openly referred to Trump as a gangster or dictator for deploying the National Guard and U.S. Marines in an effort to control the unrest following ICE raids. Using such loaded derogatory labels to liken the president to villains and political tyrants seemed aimed at flipping the narrative in their favor. On the other hand, Republicans were fired up over sanctuary cities, jurisdictions that limit cooperation with ICE and don't require local police to enforce federal immigration laws. In response, Trump already signed executive order to cut federal funding from these cities and states. That's one way to knock opponents down. Then things got heated fast at the hearing, as expected, when both parties resort to finger-pointing. Representative James Comer came out swinging, accusing the governors of siding with undocumented immigrants. When you think about it, although it's just his personal interpretation, how else can he describe what the sanctuary cities are engaged in? When suspects are released back to the community and left unchecked. In response, Democrat Stephen Lynch slammed ICE's recent actions and even compared them to the Nazi Gestapo. Again, the use of pleasant word association continues in the hearing. One tense moment came when Representative Byron Donalds grilled Governor Hochul, saying Biden's immigration policies messed everything up, finger-pointing at its best. Hochul snapped back, saying that they're dumping the federal crap on Democrats. It's getting old, the 66-year-old governor said about the accusation. Governor Walz attempted to de-escalate the situation, reminding the public that immigration enforcement is the responsibility of federal agencies like ICE and that states are not obstructing them from performing their duties. He also cautioned threats to arrest governors, such as President Trump's remark about Governor Newsom, are counterproductive and do little to resolve the tension. Critics of the raids argued that the actions were unnecessary, inflammatory, and escalatory. The situation heated further when videos allegedly showing ICE agents using excessive force went viral, triggering widespread protests led by immigrant rights groups. Demonstrators clashed with police, blocked major streets, and vandalized federal property. Some protests turned violent. Tensions rose significantly, resulting in dozens of arrests, multiple injuries, and considerable property damage. The unrest quickly became a flashpoint in the broader national debate over immigration policies, law enforcement practices, and the limits of federal authority. In response, there were growing calls for policy reform and an internal investigation into ICE's operations. Certainly, when emotions run high, they can cloud judgment and blur the line between genuine concern and personal bias, making it difficult to see the bigger picture or act with objectivity. On one hand, we have authorities arresting undocumented immigrants and protesters for violent behaviors. On the other hand, we have the lives of people who worked hard for their family torn down by the raid. One important aspect of this situation, perhaps more significant than the political debate itself, is understanding rationalization. Why all parties involved believe their responses are justified. Each side is convinced it holds the moral high ground. People often rationalize their actions to protect their self-image and reduce internal conflict, a tendency especially pronounced among politicians who rely heavily on public perception to maintain their positions. When behavior conflicts with personal values or societal norms, rationalization serves as a psychological defense mechanism that alleviates their discomfort. It helps individuals shift focus from feelings of guilt to a more positive self-view. Whether it's deploying the National Guard and Marines to maintain order, refusing to cooperate with federal raids, supporting protests, or even engaging in acts like flag burning or looting, rationalizations make such actions seem reasonable or acceptable. Scientific research shows that people rationalize their actions, mainly to reduce the discomfort they feel when the behavior conflicts with beliefs or an event contradicts life principles that guide them. The concept of cognitive dissonance was first introduced by Leon Festinger in 1957, who demonstrated that people tend to change their beliefs or reinterpret their actions to restore a sense of internal consistency. A 2009 MRI study by Van Veen and colleagues further revealed that activity in the anterior cingulate cortex, or ACC, increases during moments of dissonance, highlighting the brain's role in detecting conflict and triggering rationalization to ease discomfort. In short, people rationalize to maintain psychological balance and protect their sense of self. They often justify their actions or downplay the conflict to keep their internal world consistent. Scientific studies have shown that the anterior cingulate cortex plays a crucial role in detecting and managing cognitive conflict, emotional regulation, and decision-making. It is natural to justify our actions, whether or not it is morally right. Our brain is hardwired to do just that. We are born with this gift and a curse at the same time. We rationalize when there's a clash between competing thoughts, like when authorities enforce the law, even when families are being torn apart, or when politicians show continued support to those who burn the flag of the country to which they sworn allegiance to. Not to mention the degree of rationalization it requires to justify violence, looting, and vandal. Perhaps all parties share a guilty conscience, in that some have acted wrongly in one way or another. Rationalization could be an inferred admission of guilt to protect pride, avoid judgment, and escape facing political flaws. After all, guilt doesn't always need an admission. Sometimes it quietly shows itself in our justifications. Our brain detects the need for cognitive control and sends signals to help resolve internal conflict. All of these happens outside our conscious awareness. In essence, our mind possesses an internal alarm system, alerting us when something feels off, when something is not right. Then, it helps steer us toward how to ease that tension, such as the use of rationale. This makes it central to processes like resolving guilt. Is it any surprise, then, that no matter how wrong one side may seem, or how irrational their actions appear, they still manage to justify their behavior with full conviction, often shifting the blame to the other side? There is a great need for self-re-evaluation here, a deep dive to the human soul, to the human psyche. A better understanding and control over our natural tendency is necessary. To grow from mistakes, it takes genuine humility. To stay aligned with who we truly are, it takes modesty. We rationalize to avoid guilt, to hide admission, because deep down, we all need to believe we're the hero of our own story.